What's up everyone and welcome back to ANR Gaming. This time we're doing another video over AFK Arena, and specifically we are going to be updating the top 10 pro tips to progress quick video for AFK Arena. We did the last one a long time ago and it's time to upgrade it because even though a vast majority of the things in that video are still accurate, there's new things in the game. So it's time to update it up a bit. I recommend still watching both. But yeah, and don't forget also, I am going to be having a top 10 champs video coming out basically at the same time as this video, so make sure to check that one out too. And don't forget to, of course, like and subscribe. All right, now let's go ahead and just jump right in. So the first tip is going to be always build around a core of 3. So whenever you go ahead and start up a match, you can see right here that I have 3 characters of the same faction in play. And if you can see on the top left corner and the top right corner, you see those flashing icons right there. Well, that shows the synergy that you currently have active. So right here, as you can see on the very top, because I have 3 heroes of the same faction together, I have that plus 10% bonus. You should always at least strive for that. If not, I mean, if you can ideally go for the 3-2 matchup at least, because that's also fairly easy to do. And sometimes with very specific stages you're not going to be able to get any of the synergy, but for the most part you can always build around at least 3. Usually it's going to be either Wilders or Lightbringers, because those are basically the 2 best kind of mid to end game comps. So yeah, try to make sure that you do that. And as you can also see, just so you can make sure that you know what's active and whatnot, you can take them out like that, and you see now it's no longer flashing because I no longer have synergy. If I add her right back in, it pops back up. And the one on the top right is of course the enemies. So let's go ahead and get on to tip number 2. And that's going to be, do not use ascendable heroes as fodder. I have seen this happen way too much. I myself have been tempted to do this, but the name of this game is patience. You have to play it cool. It's going to be super tempting to try to level these guys up whenever you get stuck on a boss. I promise you, you're going to get stuck on levels all the time in this game. You just have to slow it down, relax, and know with time you will beat it. With time and RNG, you will beat it. It is not worth it in any case to ascend those use those ascendable heroes as fodder because of 2 things basically. A, especially if you're starting out, you never know who those first 5 ascended characters of yours are going to be, because unless you're wailing out, it's just going to come down to, for the most part, dumb luck. There isn't that much targeting in this game whenever it comes to heroes, except for, you know, specific events, and even then it's only a pool of specific characters. So you always want to keep them around because of that, because it might just fall on a character that you don't really care, but you just need them to be ascendable. The other issue with it is that we have seen characters get massive changes and updates to their kits, and then all of a sudden they become viable, and you might have just thrown them away a little bit ago, and you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be kicking yourself. So just make sure that you don't do it. Use the non-ascendable characters all you want, but save the ascendable ones, trust me. All right, tip number 3, CC beats opponents. So especially leading up till chapter 20ish, basically you're going to be using a lot of CC in order to kill your enemies. Once you hit chapter 20, it starts to become a little bit more intricate and complicated, but up until then you can use characters like Arden and Tassie and Athalia to be able to target specific characters that, and Fox too, don't forget about him. You can use them to target specific characters to kind of lock them out of play in order to beat whatever stage you might be on. So CC really does reign supreme up until around that point, and even in many cases afterwards. So make sure that you're using those characters. All right, next tip is buy elite hero soul stones when you see them. So in the store here, as you can see, I've already bought the ones that I showed up today in my store, but it's random on the days whenever it shows up. It's 90 diamonds. This is one of the very, very few times that you should ever use diamonds in this game to buy something from the store. This is one of the few cases where it's actually cost effective for your diamonds to elite ratio in order to be able to do that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Do not use your diamonds for anything else really until you get to the end game. That's whenever you might be wanting to use some diamonds on stuff, but it's very specific, very niche. This is the only thing you should be using those diamonds on whenever you see them. And whenever you do see them, do not be apprehensive about it. Just get them. Trust me, it's very cost efficient. All right, next tip. Refresh the bounty board when you hit level 7. So whenever you hit level 7, that's whenever the 2-star quests drop off, and it becomes very efficient for you to be able to start refreshing the board. As you can see right here in the top left corner, you can refresh for 50 diamonds. You can refresh in order to get those high level dust quests, because you are going to be hitting a huge dust roadblock at around 200, at least if you haven't hit it already before that. But yeah, not only at 200, at least 200 will you hit one, but you're going to be hitting a gold roadblock after that, and then you're going to be back to another dust roadblock for the end game. So yeah, just make sure that you utilize that level 7 board and try to re-roll a couple of times at least and try to get yourself some more dust quests, because you can never have enough dust in this game. And just as I said in the previous top 10 tricks video, you want to also make sure that you are buying that dust in the store every single day, because yeah, you just need dust, bottom line. All right, next tip. Never get heroes in labs. Go for relics. So in the labyrinth, obviously whenever you make your way through, it's a lot harder now than what it used to be. And a lot of people, especially beginners, might be tempted to try to grab those characters from the hero carts, from the abandoned wagons rather. Those are where the characters show up, and they're usually much more ascended than the characters that you have yourself. Don't be baited in by that. Relics are always more valuable than these characters. They will always do much more for you than these characters ever will. So make sure you try to prioritize, regardless of if it's a red flag or a brown flag. You want to try to get those relics. I mean, if you land on one just from pathing, whatever, it happens. But you always want to try to get those flags. All right, next tip is going to be get Icebringer and Firebringer in Labyrinth, Voyage of Wonders, and Peaks of Time. Anytime that you can get Icebringer and Firebringer, do it 100%, because the game gets exponentially easier if you are able to get those two relics combined. There are particular peaks of times especially that you're going to be stuck on, and it's almost impossible basically, or at least it feels that way, to beat them until you get Icebringer and Firebringer, and all of a sudden they're much easier. So if you ever see them, make sure you grab them, because they're the most important things. Even separately, even if you don't get the combination, they're still also very good items. So make sure that you use those. All right, next tip. Mahlers are bad. So Mahlers used to be pretty good, especially for the early game. Still wasn't that great late game, but now with a whole bunch of new characters added in, we have seen Mahlers just consistently be useless towards the late game. The only two exceptions to the characters that are actually useful in the late game are Sophia and Brutus. Basically, those characters are the only ones that actually have late game viability, as far as Brutus having the ability to become invulnerable and survive a bunch of damage, and Sophia has heavy nukes and damage, so she's actually able to do some stuff, but other than that, it's nothing. And whenever you compare it to factions rather, like Icebringers or Wilders, or basically all the other regions actually, there's just so many more characters that are viable. So you just don't want to invest a lot in Mahlers except for those two characters, and even then there's many more characters that are worth the investment more than those two, especially considering you probably won't be having the 3 character synergy bonus on it. So yeah, that's it for that tip. On to the next. Lightbringers are a great team. So Lightbringers are probably the best. Actually, I'm confident in saying they are the best faction in the game, at least right now. They have so many heavy hitter characters on this faction. You can absolutely destroy it, even though there's a lot of specifically strong characters in other factions. This is basically the only faction that you can take 5 characters, ascended characters, move in and then just clear the room with them. It's an incredibly good faction. They have so many key characters that you're going to want for late game and early. So make sure that you try to grab and focus on these Lightbringer characters as soon as possible. All right, next tip is going to be Thorin. So Thorin is the king cheese character in this game. So as I mentioned in the previous video, their RNG is something that you should utilize. It's going to screw you over a lot, but you can also utilize it. So it's very easy to just repeat over and over and over again while you're doing something else. And with Thorin, if there's a specific character that you can't beat, a specific stage that you can't beat, as long as you have at least 10 of the points into a signature item, you are able to potentially cheese this match. Basically, you want to give all of the other characters on the team very few items, just enough to be able to access the level, and then you want them all to die immediately, everyone to just go right in on Thorin, and then whenever he ults, hope to God that he annihilates them all with his ultimate. This is actually such an effective way to clear basically any map, or stage rather, that it's really handy to have, because some of them it's just going to feel like you can't clear it at all, but there is always going to be a way for Thorin to beat it. So it might take a lot of time, but you will be able to do it. All right, and then on to this one's basically like a bonus one. So I always like to add in an extra bonus one to help you guys out. And this one's going to be look things up on YouTube. So if you have issues beating a specific stage, try looking up on YouTube. This is such an underrated thing, and I'm surprised more people do not do it. But there are tons of different videos over with tons of different comps on how to beat specific stages. So make sure that you try to utilize this, and you'll always see a Thorin cheese video on there as well, just as proof that that really does work for basically every stage. So make sure that you look that up if you're really stuck on a stage, and give that a shot. You know, it's never always gonna work because there's so many variables, but at least you can kind of get on the right path, or potentially even learn what you're doing wrong. So yeah, those are good things to note. Make sure that you pay attention to them. That is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Make sure to check out my next video that I'm putting out basically at the same time as this one, and that is the top 10 champs to get video. It's going to be a video basically all over characters that are, you know, you can get. They're not locked behind anything. They're not Celestials. They're not Hypogeans, where you will rarely ever see them. So make sure that you take a look at that, because it will really help you out as well. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and hit the notification thing if you want as well for more updates on our videos. We always do a whole bunch of mobile game stuff. Lastly, if you have more tips to give people, make sure that you put them in the comments, because there's tons of other tips out there, obviously. I even have more off the top of my head. I might do another video on them later on. But for anyone that knows something and wants everyone else to know it, they didn't hear in this one, make sure to put it in the comments. And yeah, until next time, guys, game on.